Hey everyone, we all see the incredible things AI can do, but today we're not talking about the what, we're talking about the how. Specifically, how in the world do these massive models work so fast? We're going to pull back the curtain on the invisible bottleneck that's holding AI back, and the ingenious war being waged to smash right through it.
I mean, you see it every day, right? AI is writing code, it's creating these unbelievable images, it's having conversations that feel spookily human, and the models behind this, with hundreds of billions of parameters, are just scaling at a mind-bending pace.
But have you ever just stopped and thought about the speed of it all? When you get a response, it feels instantaneous. But behind the curtain, a model the size of a city has to be read from memory for every single word. How is that even possible? And that is the real miracle we're going to unpack right now.
So here's the absolute key. The main enemy holding AI back isn't its thinking speed. That's compute, and we've got tons of it. No, the real villain, the big bad, is something called the memory bottleneck. Just imagine a genius who can think at the speed of light, but they can only read a single word per minute. All that brainpower is useless if you can't get the information fast enough. And for an AI, that reading is just moving its giant brain from memory to the processor. That's the wall.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, let's use an analogy for the rest of this explainer. Think of a giant AI model as a massive, sprawling library that holds all of its knowledge. The librarian? That's our processor. Now, here's the problem. To answer even a simple question, our poor librarian has to sprint across the library and haul these enormous, super heavy books off the shelves for every single word in the answer. It's slow, it's inefficient, and it's exhausting. Our mission is to make that librarian's job way, way easier.
All right, so our first strategy in this war is something called quantization. In our library analogy, this is pretty simple. We're making the books themselves smaller and lighter, right? If each book weighs less, the librarian can grab them and move them around much, much faster. In the world of AI, this means we're reducing the precision of the numbers that make up the model.
But of course, there's a catch. You can't just shrink everything down uniformly. See, inside that model, some numbers, we call them outliers, are way more important than others. They're like the critical plot twists in a novel. If you just shrink the book willy-nilly, you might make those key sentences unreadable, and the whole story just falls apart. For an AI, getting this wrong means its accuracy can just plummet.
And this is where things get really clever. The old way of doing this, called INT8, was basically a dumb photocopier. It just shrank everything by the same amount. And yeah, it often damaged those super important outlier values. But the new way, FP8, or 8-bit floating point, is so much smarter. Think of it like a flexible grid that squishes together for the common small values, giving them tons of precision, but stretches out to make sure it captures the full range of those big, critical outliers. It's like a custom-tailored suit instead of a one-size-fits-all t-shirt.
And what this shows us really is that there's no single magic bullet here. It's a whole toolkit. FP8 is definitely the future, especially for the newest chips, but for other situations, you've got other tools. AWQ, for instance, looks at which numbers get used the most and makes sure to protect them during compression. Then there's GPTQ, which uses some really fancy math to figure out the absolute best way to shrink the model with the least damage, which is awesome for older hardware. You got to pick the right tool for the job.
Okay, so we've made the books lighter. What's next? Well, let's give our poor, overworked librarian an assistant. This brings us to our second strategy, speculative decoding. Back in our library, imagine our librarian has a super fast intern. While the main librarian is busy checking a fact, the intern just sprints ahead and guesses the next 5 books you're probably going to ask for. That's the core idea.
So you got to understand the root of the problem we're attacking. These AI models, by their very nature, build their answers one word at a time. It's called auto-regressive generation. And for every single one of those words, the librarian has to read the entire library. It's this one by one process, and it's just agonizingly slow. Speculative decoding is basically a cheat code to break that cycle. Here's how it works. First, a small, speedy little draft model, our intern, blurts out a guess of, say, the next 5 words. Then, the big, powerful main model, our expert librarian, comes along and checks all 5 of those guesses at once in one single parallel step. It looks at the list and says, yep, the first 3 are perfect. And bam! We just generated 3 words in the time it normally takes to generate 1. We just cheated the system. And the pace of innovation here has just been insane. It started with 2 separate models, but they could get out of sync. So then we got cool ideas like Medusa, where the main model literally grows extra heads to guess for itself.
Then things get even smarter, with stuff like Eagle, which doesn't just guess the next word, it guesses the underlying idea or meaning, which is way more accurate. And the cutting edge, tree attention, that's like our librarian checking not just one path of books the intern grabbed, but a whole branching tree of possibilities, all at the same time. The guessing game is getting incredibly sophisticated.
All right, strategy number 3. This one isn't about lighter books or a faster assistant. It's about reorganizing the entire library. This is Mixture of Experts, or MOE. Instead of one giant, messy library, what if we broke it up into specialized sections, a history wing, a science wing, a coding wing, each with its own expert librarian? Now, to answer a coding question, our librarian only has to visit that one small section, not the entire building.
And that, right there, is the core idea of Mo. When a request comes in, a smart router sends it to just a few of these specialized expert networks. This means a model can have, say, 600 billion parameters in total, but only use maybe 30 or 40 billion of them for any single task. You get all the knowledge of a giant model without the cost of reading the whole thing every single time. It's brilliant.
And the DeepSeek Mo model really took this to the next level. What they did that was so smart was they created a shared expert. Think of this as the expert on common knowledge, like grammar and sentence structure, stuff that's needed for pretty much everything, which is it's such a smart move because it frees up all the other experts to become hyper-specialized on their one niche topic without wasting brainpower relearning the basics.
But the real aha moment from DeepSeek was how they solved this big problem, where the model gets lazy and just sends all its work to one or two favorite experts. They brilliantly separated two different jobs, load balancing and learning. A simple system makes sure all the experts get an even amount of work, but the model itself? It only gets rewarded for the quality of its answers, not which expert it used. So you get perfect hardware use and a smarter model. It's the best of both worlds.
And get this, the savings don't even stop there. All these models have a kind of short-term memory to keep track of the conversation, called the KV cache. The problem is, it gets enormous and just devours memory. Well, DeepSeek came up with a new technique that compresses this cache by an absolutely staggering 93%. That is a complete game changer. It frees up a ton of memory, which means you can serve way more people at the exact same time.
So, let's recap. We have lighter books, a fast assistant, and a perfectly organized library with a team of experts. But none of that matters without our fourth and final strategy, the underlying system that runs the whole show. This is the serving infrastructure, the library's high-tech catalog and lightning-fast checkout system.
And this really comes down to two huge software innovations. First, paged attention. It's a brilliant idea they borrowed from computer operating systems that basically eliminates memory waste. And second, continuous batching, which makes sure the GPU, the powerhouse of all this, is never ever sitting idle. The second a job finishes, a new one is swapped in instantly. It's all about maximum efficiency.
And this is where it all comes together. It's just beautiful. The next big thing is co-design, where all these strategies start working together. Take a system called MoSpew. It uses a small, quantized model to do speculative decoding. But here's the genius part. It doesn't just guess the next words. It also guesses which mixture of experts expert the big model is going to need next. Then it preloads that expert from memory, completely hiding the time it takes to go fetch it.
Which really brings us to the main takeaway here. There isn't one magic bullet solution to making these giant models fast. The real art is orchestrating a whole symphony of different techniques. Quantization, speculation, expert routing, and system design that all play in perfect harmony to break through the physical limits of our hardware.
So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. As these AI models keep getting smarter and more capable, will we eventually look back and decide that the true genius wasn't just the model itself, but the incredibly complex and elegant symphony of tricks and optimizations that we built to let it sing for us in the first place? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.